Today's verse of the day. Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 through 7. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your heart and your minds in Christ Jesus. Don't let the fear consume you into believing a certain narrative. When you have the Lord on your side, there's a lot of things that are not gonna affect you as much as they would if you didn't have the Lord on your side. And the reason that is because God is going to protect you and allow you to suffer gracefully and endure the necessary obstacles needed to overcome them and to grow into the version of yourself that you need to be. So having anxiety and fear while living through that process isn't going to do you any good. It's not going to help you get any closer to your goal. It's not going to help you get closer to the result. It's just going to simply derail you and distract you from getting the desired outcome. So not having fear and not having anxiety on your journey will allow you to get a lot closer to the desired outcome that you think. And also keeping your faith in God and keeping your faith in what His process is having you endure will also help you get closer to that thing that you desire most. So just keep that in mind on your journey. Don't allow yourself to consume a lot of fear and anxiety while on your journey. Continue to believe, continue to have faith, continue to pray, continue to build your relationship with God, and continue to grow spiritually so that you can overcome any and every obstacle. With that being said, let's get to the charts. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the stock market recap and predictions. Starting out the week, we had some plays we took on QQQ. Here we have the QQQ chart loaded on the 5-minute time frame. As you guys see here, we opened up around the 736 level, where we then held above that level and pushed higher, going up into 740, where we then saw a reversal come in, going back down to retest 736. We held that level, going back up, breaking above 740. This time we were able to get a break, which is where I then looked to take a position. As we were forming a trend higher, I saw and noticed that we were forming a bull flag off of the EMA. So I took a position off of the EMAs here, going into this candle. And using this candle as a stop loss, I was able to capture the move to the upside, taking profits once we broke above the 740 level. I just closed out my position. I was pretty happy with my start to the week because I had a very, very well executed swing that went up extraordinarily over the weekend. So I was pretty happy with my one and done trade on the day for Monday, and I really didn't want to be too greedy going into the start of the week. So I went in and took profits, but it did go a lot higher, and we ended up reversing around 742.27. We then saw it hold above 740, bouncing once more and going even higher again, reaching as high as 745.65, where we then saw some selling pressure come in going into the end of the day and closing out the day around 742. So that was the levels we had on Monday. Those are the trades we took. That was the market, the way it performed on Monday. Now let's move on to Tuesday and talk about what trades we took on Tuesday. All right, ladies and gents, here we have the Tuesday chart loaded up. On the SPY chart, takes up a SPY 5-minute time frame. So on SPY, we actually were holding up above 758. We were able to get a break above it going into the 9 o'clock hour. We then saw some holds above the trend and above the orb high here. As you guys see, we tried to fill back below it, but we failed to get below that orb high. From there, we had a reversal going back higher, reaching back up into the all-time high range. I looked to take a short position here as we were approaching all-time highs, and I simply just used that all-time high candle high as a stop loss for the day, and I was able to capture a little bit of a move to the downside, but this move happened very, very slowly. So I did go ahead and take profits once we got a break below the initial 8 EMA, because as you guys see, it just continued to wick over and over and over. And then I essentially did right, because as you guys see, we ended up wicking back above the level, going back into our range here, which I really didn't like to see. I wanted to see it kind of sell more aggressively, and we weren't really getting that. So I went ahead and just took profits, but it did end up moving lower later in the day, and we were able to see a little bit more downside, but it wasn't a lot. And so I was happy with my move and my in and out play that I caught, given that we captured the high of the day, going into the low range around 750, 759.25. So I was very happy with that. Yeah, that's really the only trade that we took on Tuesday. So now let's move on to Wednesday and talk about what trades we took on Wednesday. All right, ladies and gents, here we have the QQQ loaded back up on the 5-minute time frame for Wednesday. As you guys see, we had initial failure coming into the market as we failed to get above 748. Seeing that failure go all the way back down to 741.5, we were then able to hold that level, seeing a sharp reversal going back up, reclaiming the orb low at 744, which is where I then took interest to take positions. I looked to take a trade off of the reclaim of this orb low and the reclaim of the EMA. So that's what I did. Once I noticed confirmation of us reclaiming each EMA, I then looked to see continuation higher, taking a position going into the 2 wicks and the retest of this EMA. I used that candle low as a stop loss. I was able to capture this move going back up, but then we started to see a little bit of failure come in and honestly choppiness to see continuation higher. So I was unfortunately trailed out of this position after seeing it fail back lower. Then I looked to try to take shorts, but it just kind of was stuck in this range for a while. Then we were able to see the shorts kick in after getting stopped. So essentially just a seek liquidity on me. Liquidated my position, then went back down in reverse, going back lower. We then saw a failure of the orb low once more, going back down to the previous week high in the low of the day session, where I then decided to take calls because I had a feeling that if we were to reach back down, then we would see a reversal go back up, and surely that's what we saw. And I was able to capture this move going back up into the orb low, getting trailed back out of my position. I could have taken a re-entry on the position once more, but I wasn't really too confident in it doing another go around for the third time, but it did end up working, and it actually went a little bit higher the third time around. So all in all, it was a pretty decent session, other than me getting liquidated out of my short position. And it's pretty crazy how they treated the shorts this week leading up until the end of the week, which we'll talk about here shortly. So yeah, that was our Wednesday session. Let's move on to Thursday and talk about what trades we took on Thursday. All right, and here we have the Thursday session loaded on the Qs. Once again, as you guys see, we just had a little bit of filling come into the market going into that opening bell. For Thursday, we saw failure kick in right below 740, going back below 740. We were then pushing lower, going down to 732. We then had a sharp reversal going back above 732 and reclaiming once again. Once I noticed the reclaim once more, I decided to take calls simply due to the fact that we kept reversing and claiming the levels that we were failing to get above, essentially. So as I noticed that we were failing to get lower and we were starting to go back above our levels that we were failing, I decided to take a position. Now I got a position here on this reclaim of the EMA once again, using this candle low as a stop loss, and I was able to capture this move going into the upside. And I didn't really have the patience to hold through this position, so I did trail out of my position early, but this position did end up holding really well and actually broke out and went even higher, reaching all the way back into the previous day low, closer to about 743 to 744, going into the end of the day, where I then noticed that we were starting to fizzle out a little bit. And so as I noticed that we were fizzling out, I used the entry to take a short position after seeing it fail below the EMAs. Using that candle high of the day as a stop loss, I was able to capture this move going back lower, closer to the end of the day, but we did trail out of this position because it kept wicking above our position. I didn't like the wicks, so I did trail out of that position as well. But the move of the day was definitely this trend upward all the way back into 743, excuse me. We just were very impatient and not willing to wait long enough to see the results. So lesson of the day, if you guys want to see a trade work in your favor, have patience and have great patience, because this took literally if you held this position, this position held for you all day long, and you could have got re-entries on this position as well, because as you guys see here, we retested the orb high perfectly, had a very, very, very great re-entry here if you were to get into this position right there. Another position, once again, you could have built size into this position here as well, having a really defined risk. These are the trades that you want to trade. You don't want to trade the trades where you're uncertain and guessing where the market's gonna go. You want to trade the positions that make sense, and this trade made perfect sense. It's just, yeah, I overlooked this position. But we did start to see failure going into Thursday session, post-market, leading into Friday, which is the day we'll talk about next. And that was probably the most exciting day of the week by far. So let's move on to Friday and talk about what took place Friday.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? I just want to say thank you all for watching. If you guys are new, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Also, turn on the notification bell. And if you guys want to learn more about how to day trade, I have a free day trading course on my website at www.continuebelief.com. There you'll get all the information and resources needed to help you guys learn more on your journey to day trading. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let's get back to it.
All right, you guys, so here we have the post-market and pre-market chart loaded for the cues going into Friday, because I want to show you what took place overnight. So we closed the day closer to about 7:43, as you guys see, but then something happened overnight. Overnight, the market just started to slowly drip down. Candle by candle, just go lower and lower and lower, leading into the pre-market, where we then saw a gap down, going down into 732.5, which was the previous day low. We then had a bounce off the previous day low, going back up to 735.5. We failed that level, going lower, opening the day closer to 730, failing to get back above 731. We then saw failure going down aggressively, reaching back down to our previous week low of 724.6. We then fell below that level, saw a very small reversal back into the orb low. I was able to capture a move off of this reclaim of the previous week low, using that candle low as a stop loss back into the orb low, where I then took profits because I noticed that we might curl and go back lower. I took a position on the puts on the orb low retest, using the candle high as a stop loss right here. Seeing that we had the failure that we had come back in to the market, I used that candle as an entry. Using these candles as stop loss, I was able to capture this move going back down. But then we did the same thing like Thursday, and started to form a downside move right here on these EMAs. I wasn't patient enough to hold. I was on a flight at this time, so that could be an excuse, but there really is no excuse as to why I sold. I had no reason to really sell. My position was perfect. We held this EMA, saw it fell back below the low of day, and then fell back below this green zone here, which was actually a gap fill zone, and we just sold off for the rest of the day very aggressively, all the way down to 705, I believe, and then we saw a little bit of a bounce, so down to 704.3. Then we bounced, and then we closed the day at 705.25. So had I just held that position, I believe the contracts went up over $1,000. I think I bought in at like $100 or something like that for my position. So I missed out on that. But there's more opportunities in the market where these kind of things will present itself. That happened to me last week with Microsoft. I caught a very nice gap up in the market. So for it to have possibly happened twice in a week would have been insane. I definitely could have captured this move had I just had the mentality to hold it and just use, I don't know, the EMA as a stop loss, the break of EMA as a stop loss, because it would have broke realistically down here at 1235. So I really didn't have a reason to sell until this break right here. But you live, you learn. These are moments in your journey that you'll have to experience and remember, so that you know that these things are possible. You see it, and now you know it's possible. So all in all, I had a great day that day too, because I caught other plays as well. Eli Lilly, I caught Eli Lilly play. I caught two of the cues to the upside and to the downside play. And yeah, that was really it. So I'm really happy with the execution on the day, regardless of me not capitalizing on the massive move. Still caught a very good return on investment in that day. So now let's move on to talk about what we can expect to see going into this next week of June. All right, you guys, here we have the SPY chart loaded up on the 4-hour time frame. Man, oh man, what a chart to see. Look at this right here, y'all. So we started out the week pushing higher and higher and higher, reaching up to 760, which looks to be our massive level of resistance as of right now, which we'll talk about here shortly. But we retested 760 on Monday, failed to get above it again on Tuesday. Wednesday we had to push lower, going back down to 754, bouncing off that level a little bit. Then we saw Thursday rejection, going back down, gapping back down, all the way down, opening the day below that 752.5 level and pushing all the way down to 737.4. And we gave back an entire week's worth of gains. Mind you guys, I did mention last week about the 9-week run being a very unicorn thing and not being a very common method or approach to the market. Not accustomed to doing and performing in that manner. So this isn't really much of a surprise to me. I did expect it to happen. I just didn't expect it to happen at this level. So now I know the possibility of this kind of market that we're in. It's a volatile market to the upside and it's a volatile market to the downside as well. What can we expect to see happen going into this next week of June? What are the levels to watch? For me, the levels to watch are going to be the 732 point. Really, 732 is going to be this main level to watch going into the second week of June. We still haven't broken any major levels just yet. We have broken the trend to an extent, but we are still holding major levels of demand. 732 being that first level. If we can hold 732, we can see a bounce back up going into 736. If we get a reclaim back above 736, we can see a push higher going into 740 to 744. From there, if we push back above 744, we can see a push higher going back into 752. However, if we fail to hold 732, we can now see failure and a push lower going down to 725, which is that gap fill zone right here. Let me extend that out. If we fell below the 725 range, we can then see a pushback lower going down below 725, reaching closer to 720. If we fail 720, we can see a push down to 716, which is already marked. Let me mark out 720, because I believe that's a level as well. And those will be the levels to watch on the downside. So we have pretty much the levels marked out pretty perfectly. I mean, you guys see here, I haven't really touched any of these levels since I set them. 752.5, as you guys see, was a level that was tested and failed. Now turning to resistance. 748 broke through that level very, very easily, so that's why it's a green line there. 744, another level that was tested, wicked a little bit, but then failed again. Going back lower, 740 looks to be somewhat of a level, but not really. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete that one, honestly, because it's not really much of a level. What is a level is that 738 to 737.5. So I'm gonna mark that out instead. And yeah, I mean, the levels are really there. They're pretty clear. You wanna see how the market responds off of these levels. You wanna see if it responds in a way that shows upside movement or downside movement. Trade the trend. Whatever the trend is, follow that. That's my word of advice, because if you're trying to go against the trend, you will get burnt. Do not go against the trend. Follow the trend. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the market's performance this week. Very, very insane move to see it happen so aggressively. It's pretty cool to see, but comment below your thoughts. Let me know if you guys think the market's gonna go up or down going into this next week of June. I am no bias at all. Whichever way it goes, I'm looking forward to trading that. So yeah, but other than that, you guys, that will be it for this episode. Thank you all for tuning in once again. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Also turn on the notification bell. And if you guys are new, I do a podcast called Rich Off Gains every Monday at 7 p.m. Central Time. So tune into that tomorrow. And yeah, thank you all for watching. I appreciate you all so much. I will see you guys next week.